Adolf Hitler, one of the most infamous figures in history, is often studied for his role in orchestrating the horrors of World War II, as well as for the ideology that fueled the genocide of 6 million Jews and millions of others. But one question that often arises is, what was going on in Hitler's mind? What kind of mental health challenges did he face, if any, and how did they shape his behavior and the course of history? In this video, we will explore the mental health of Adolf Hitler, looking at the psychological factors that may have contributed to his actions, as well as examining the limitations of what we can know for certain about his state of mind. To understand the possible mental health struggles of Adolf Hitler, we must start by looking at his early life. Born in 1889 in Austria, Hitler's childhood was marked by trauma and loss. His father, Alois Hitler, was an authoritarian figure who often treated young Adolf harshly, and his mother, Clara, was deeply nurturing. The loss of his mother to cancer in 1907 had a profound impact on him, and it is said to have shaped much of his emotional world. Hitler was also a socially awkward child, failing to excel in school or connect with his peers. This social isolation may have contributed to the development of a number of psychological traits we see in him later in life. Before his rise to political power, Hitler aspired to be an artist. He applied to the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna, but was rejected twice. Some have speculated that this rejection fueled his later bitterness and resentment. This period of failure could have contributed to a sense of deep inferiority, potentially fueling the feelings of inadequacy that would later manifest in his extreme nationalism and pursuit of power. During this time, Hitler struggled with depression, as evidenced by accounts from those who knew him in Vienna. He also developed a strong dislike for the Jewish population, a sentiment that would later underpin much of his ideology. Psychologists and historians have long speculated about the nature of Hitler's personality. One of the most commonly cited conditions is narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. NPD is characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance, a need for admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. Hitler's speeches and writings reveal a man who believed he was destined for greatness, even to the point of seeing himself as a messianic figure, a savior of Germany. At the same time, Hitler exhibited signs of paranoia. He was distrustful of those around him, and often saw enemies everywhere. His constant fear of betrayal led him to make rash decisions, even during the height of World War II. His relationships with his inner circle were often fraught with tension, and he reportedly had a deep suspicion of anyone who might pose a threat to his power. Another significant aspect of Hitler's mental health may have been his struggle with depression. In his later years, especially during the final stages of the war, Hitler appeared to exhibit classic symptoms of severe depression: irritability, withdrawal from social interaction, a sense of impending doom, and a loss of interest in things that once brought him pleasure. Some historians have also suggested that Hitler may have been abusing drugs during this time. According to reports from his personal physician, Dr. Theodor Morell, Hitler was given a variety of substances, including methamphetamines and barbiturates, which could have had significant effects on his mental state. These substances may have contributed to his erratic behavior and mood swings, further exacerbating his paranoia and depression. World War I was another pivotal moment in Hitler's life, one that shaped his worldview and psychological development. As a soldier in the German army, Hitler was wounded twice, once in a gas attack that temporarily blinded him. The trauma of war likely had a lasting effect on his mental health. It's believed that Hitler struggled with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, experiencing vivid nightmares, flashbacks, and a general sense of hopelessness. The experience of losing the war, followed by Germany's defeat and the harsh terms of the Treaty of Versailles, also contributed to Hitler's anger and sense of betrayal. His rise to power was, in part, fueled by a desire to avenge Germany's defeat and restore the country to its former glory. As Hitler ascended to the highest echelons of power, his mental state became increasingly erratic. The role of leader, the Führer, turned into a kind of all-consuming obsession for Hitler. His sense of self-importance grew exponentially, and his increasing isolation from reality led him to make decisions that defied logic and reason. Hitler's behavior can be understood in part through the concept of the cult of personality. The more power he gained, the more detached he became from reality. His refusal to listen to advice, and his reliance on sycophants who catered to his every whim may have deepened his psychological decline. As the war turned against him, his mental health worsened, and his paranoia escalated to the point where he trusted almost no one, not even his closest allies. By the time the Allies were closing in on Berlin in 1945, Hitler's mental state had deteriorated significantly. Reports from those who were with him in the Führer bunker paint a picture of a man on the edge of complete mental collapse. He was reportedly delusional, believing that victory was still possible despite the overwhelming evidence to the contrary. As the war drew to a close, Hitler's decision to commit suicide rather than face capture speaks to the ultimate culmination of his psychological decline. It is clear that by the time of his death, he had descended into a state of profound mental illness, isolated from reality and consumed by his own delusions. Adolf Hitler's mental health, while difficult to diagnose from a historical perspective, undeniably played a significant role in his rise to power and his actions during World War II. His personality disorders, combined with early trauma, substance abuse, and the pressures of war, likely contributed to his increasingly erratic behavior and decisions. In the end, Hitler's mental health issues cannot excuse the atrocities he committed, but they do offer us insight into the mind of one of history's most infamous leaders. Understanding the psychological profile of such a figure helps us comprehend the devastating impact of unchecked power, extreme ideologies, and the personal demons that can shape the course of history. Thank you for watching. If you found this video insightful, please consider subscribing and leaving a comment below. What do you think about the psychological factors that contributed to Hitler's actions? We'd love to hear your thoughts.